confidence always for me comes from a place of competence. So the reason that I sit in these spaces and I hold such bravado and such, gravitas, and I know that I do, it is because I am really competent in what I do. I know the law like the back of my hand. I am steeped in intellectual journalism and cultural and global perspective. So I walk into a space knowing what the hell I'm talking about.
Welcome to Securing the Bag, the Roots exclusive interview series about entrepreneurship, work, and the secrets to success. Today we have with us Eboni K. Williams, lawyer, television personality, and author of the new book, Bet on Black. Welcome, Ebony.
Hi, Angela.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So I have to start off by asking you about the title of your book, because if you watch the news today, it may seem like there's not a whole lot of reasons to be happy about being Black today. So why did you choose the title, and why did you want to write this book right now?
Well, exactly for that reason, right? My mother said the same thing when I told her the title of the book, Bet on Black, the good news about being Black in America today. She says, well, Eb, what is the good news, right? And I take that as a challenge. As a writer, Toni Morrison says if there's a book that you want to read that has not been written, it's your job to write it. So that's what this book is for me, Angela. This is the good news story, the celebration story, a bit more of a more accurate story than unfortunately many of us are fed as we matriculate in this nation. And I really wanted to reframe what it is to be Black in America for a lot of us. I'm very propelled around the notions of Blackness being my superpower, and growing up with a woman, Gloria, my mother, who made it her business to make sure that I knew as a little Black girl named Ebony, right? That's literally my moniker in life, that I could feel really good, really confident, and really proud of being Black in America today. And that pride and confidence comes from a competence that I know Blackness is in this nation. And that's really the premise of the book.
So one of the things I love about you is that you are unapologetically Black. And I have to go to, on the very first page of your book, you say, I carry my Blackness with me into every room I enter. And I think I read that over like 5 times, because so many of us have heard that code switching and things like that and flying under the radar are the ways that you get ahead. But obviously, that's not what you're doing. So why do you think it's important to kind of squash those beliefs?
Listen, and I want to be clear, Angela, that I walk boldly and confidently into all rooms with all of my Blackness everywhere I go. I'm almost 40 years old. That has been a process for me. Like many of us, people of color and Black people specifically in this nation, right? Fed narratives that we are to decenter our Blackness, that we are to make space and prioritize white-centric aspects of this nation and normalize those as norms that we have to make adjustments around. And one of the things I talk about in the book is my personal divorce from white comfort. And that was, again, a process and a journey that comes honest through my education and college and law school, my experience practicing law, my experience as a journalist, my experience in pageants, politics. I've, been blessed to be in many spaces as a relatively young Black woman. And I noticed that when I show up more boldly and authentic in my Blackness, I end up actually getting a better result from all aspects. And I want to be clear, this is called Securing the Bag, right? From even a commercial space, I end up more successful the more authentic and unapologetic I am in my identity, which happens to be a Black woman.
So you mentioned your mom and just the influence that she had on your life. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about the strong Black women that you looked up to and how they helped propel you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I dedicate this book to my mother, Gloria, along with my grandfather, who is passed, Kerry James Williams Sr. And I credit them as the first 2 Black people that demonstrated for me the value in betting on Black. I don't think it's an accident that they were both entrepreneurs. I don't think it's an accident that they were 2 Black people, both of them separately born in eras of Jim Crow segregation. My grandfather in 1924, my mother in 1960, Southeast Louisiana, right? And they were just so damn persistent in rejecting narratives of Black inferiority, Black submissiveness, Black subordination. And in place, I was raised with really strong narratives around Black liberation, Black emancipation, Black liberation. And I just really thank God for having a mother that could see that early.
So education, I love to talk to successful people about, obviously you can look at your resume and see that you're obviously a well-educated woman, but there were some other things that you didn't learn in school probably. Yes. That, have helped shape who you are. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Very much so. I think it's critically important to address this issue, especially at this point in time in our nation's cultural ethos where we've got governors and legislatures in different states in our country working overtime to make sure that our nation does not know the actuality of Blackness. So what my mother, Gloria, did was she created, and let me be clear, I am very proud of my formal education, but I'm a first-generation college graduate. So I don't sit with you today as some, extended legacy of prodigy and elite ism. This is a new thing for my family's legacy, and we talk about breaking generational curses, and I think that's a benevolent responsibility and privilege that I get to do that. But what my mother lacked in formal education, she made up with spades in terms of common sense and knowingness. And so she built a supplemental curriculum at the house that had, from the ages of girls 7 on, autobiography of Malcolm X, I Know Why the Cage Bird Had to Sing, Roll the Thunder, Hear My Cry, which a lot of us grew up with, but also some of the more advanced works, the narratives of Frederick Douglass, Souls of Black Folk from W.B. Du Bois. So again, from my most primitive kind of shaping of who I was as a Black woman on our homeland, this is our nation as Americans, I just was excited about being Black, because you couldn't tell me anything bad about being Black because I knew who we really were as a people.
And that's amazing. And shout out to your mom for even, putting that
knowing
together.
to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially now when we look at, there's so many, and you even mentioned in your book just how so many of our books are the targets of book bans and things like that. And so for your mom to actually make sure that, you had that knowledge, even if the schools don't want you to.
Yeah, I was going to get it anyway. And I think that's really the approach I would encourage more Black parents to take. If the schools do what they should do. Let's be clear, we pay taxes for a reason, right? Our schools should be responsible and accountable for making sure that Black studies and women's studies, Latino studies and everything like that are taught. But if they won't, Malcolm says only a fool allows his oppressor to educate his children. So we have to make sure that we're doing our part as well.
Absolutely. Not always easy to do, but definitely very important.
And worth it, right? And
No,
worth
I
it.
agree,
Yeah.
100%. You have no problem being a disruptor. I mean, you were on Fox News during the Trump presidency. I don't know how you did that. You were.
I live to tell about it.
Amen. And you were one of the Real Housewives of New York City. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how those experiences, what they taught you about yourself and about other people.
Yeah, so I was actually reading a quote this morning from the social media page of Ariel Investments. And Ariel Investments, I think, is germane to what you guys are doing here with the show, Securing the Bag, founded largest Black equity firm, right, with Melody Hobbs and John Rogers. And one of the quotes was saying from Warren Buffett, Melody was speaking to, the importance of being able to stand alone, the importance of getting really, really okay with not being popular as one of the keys to success. And my mother must have said it to me in a different wording, but the same messaging. And girl, I'm okay standing in the cold by myself. If what that brings is an opportunity for others that look like me and experience this world similarly to me can have a better experience. So being the first Black woman on Real Housewives of New York was a lot, as I write about extensively in chapter 3 of the book. I say I had to be the second coming damn near of Kamala Harris to even be cast, right? Versus my castmates, different resumes, right? And same thing with Fox News. I had to overperform, I had to be overeducated, I had to be overprepared for all of those segments with those personalities. But it taught me the ability to do it alone, to go it alone, and to not be kind of crippled, I think, in a way, by notions of popularity and groupthink. So I'm somebody who's very, very, very much okay with doing it my way.
So, and I definitely think confidence is probably something that is important for what you're doing, because I'm sure you get it from both sides. Because I'm sure there's probably Black people that think you're not Black enough, or you're
Sure.
not, you're always.
Been dealing with that since I was little. I'm just going to guess you might be able to relate a little bit. And I know that comes from a place of pain and trauma. And that comes from my people not deeply understanding the full spectrum of who we are as Black people, aesthetically, culturally, regionally. So I make space for that and I hold that where it is. It comes from a pain point. And then I go on about my business because I know who and whose I am. And I would also just like to say, when it comes to the confidence part, I get that question a lot. It's not random. Confidence always, for me, comes from a place of competence. So the reason that I sit in these spaces and I hold such bravado and such, gravitas, and I know that I do, it is because I am really competent in what I do. I know the law like the back of my hand. I am steeped in intellectual journalism and cultural and global perspective. So I walk into a space knowing what the hell I'm talking about, and that gives me a lot of the confidence.
That's important because there's nothing worse than a stupid, confident person.
And we see it all the time, and that's called arrogance, right?
Yes.
And that's actually what arrogance is. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Ebony,
Thank
for coming
you,
to talk
Angela.
to us.
This was great.